The envelope sat on my kitchen counter, its edges worn, the ink smudged. A baby shower invitation, my son's first child, my grandchild. But it wasn't addressed to me. It was crumpled, hidden in the trash, as if I was never meant to see it. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. Betrayal. The word burned in my mind. Why would Claire, my son's wife, do this? Why would she erase me from this moment? I'm Margaret, 62 years old, a widow who's lived for her family. My son Daniel is my everything. I raised him alone after his father passed, pouring every ounce of love into him. Every sacrifice, late nights, working, skipping meals to pay for his college, felt worth it when I saw him smile. Now he's married to Claire, and they're expecting a baby I was supposed to celebrate. But that invitation, discarded like garbage, told a different story. It screamed betrayal. It whispered exclusion. I found it by accident. I'd stopped by their house to drop off a homemade quilt for the nursery. Daniel was at work, but Claire was home. She was all smiles, her voice syrupy sweet. "Oh, Margaret, you shouldn't have," she said, clutching the quilt. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Something felt off, like a shadow passing over the sun. I brushed it aside, chalking it up to pregnancy hormones. But then in their kitchen I saw it. The trash bin was overflowing, and there, half buried under coffee grounds, was the envelope. My fingers trembled as I pulled it out. The words, "baby shower," were scrawled in elegant cursive. My name was nowhere on it. Why would Claire hide this? Was it a mistake? A misunderstanding? No, this was deliberate. I could feel it in my bones. The way she'd been distant lately. Her calls to Daniel shorter when I was around. The way she'd changed the subject when I mentioned the baby. This wasn't just a forgotten invitation. This was a calculated move to cut me out, to sever me from my family, from my grandchild. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it festers. It grows roots. And right then, standing in that kitchen, I felt those roots twisting inside me. Danker salper kinkersaus enkai, and quinkerseking frio. I drove home in a daze, the invitation clutched in my hand. My mind raced. Had Daniel known, my sweet boy who called me every Sunday, who hugged me tight at Christmas, would he let this happen? I couldn't believe it. But doubt crept in, cold and sharp. What if he'd changed? What if Claire had turned him against me? The thought was a knife to my heart. I pulled over tears, blurring the road. I needed answers. I needed justice. Back at home, I sat at my dining table, the invitation staring back at me. I smoothed it out, tracing the words. "You're invited to celebrate," it read. But I wasn't. I was erased. My chest tightened. I thought of my own mother, how she'd held Daniel as a newborn, her eyes shining with pride. I deserved that moment. I deserved to be there to hold my grandchild, to be part of their story. But Claire had stolen that from me. Why? What had I done to deserve this? I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. Daniel's first steps, his laughter, the way he'd cling to me during thunderstorms. I'd given him everything. And now this, betrayal. It wasn't just Claire's doing. It was an attack on everything I'd built, everything I'd fought for. I could let it break me. I could curl up and cry, or I could fight back. I opened my eyes, a fire kindling inside me. I wasn't just Margaret, the grieving widow, the doting mother. I was a woman who'd survived loss, who'd clawed her way through hardship. I had a plan A secret I'd kept for years. A trust fund, $1 million, set aside for my grandchild's future. Claire didn't know about it. Daniel didn't either. It was my legacy, my gift. And I'd use it, not just to secure my grandchild's future, but to expose Claire's betrayal, to reclaim my place. Sakari, the baby shower was in 2 weeks. I had time to dig, time to understand why Claire wanted me gone, time to show up where I wasn't wanted. My hands stopped shaking. My tears dried. I picked up the phone and dialed Susan, my oldest friend. Susan, I said, my voice steady, I need your help. Claire's hiding something, and I'm going to find out what. Susan's voice crackled through the line, sharp and ready. Margaret, you don't mess with the grandmother's love. Whatever you need, I'm in. I smiled, the first real smile since I'd found that invitation. Claire thought she could erase me. She thought she could win, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. Betrayal had woken something in me, something fierce, something unstoppable. What was Claire hiding? Why did she want me out of the picture? And what would happen when I walked into that baby shower, uninvited, with a secret that could change everything? The kitchen clock ticked each second, a hammer against my heart. I sat there, the crumpled invitation still on the table, mocking me. Betrayal. It wasn't just a word, now it was a wound, raw and bleeding. Claire had hidden my place in my grandchild's life. Why? What had I done to her? I closed my eyes, and memories flooded in sharp as broken glass. Daniel's tiny hand in mine, his first words, his graduation cap flying high. I'd given him everything, and now this. I stood pacing the room, my slippers scuffing the worn hardwood. My house was small, filled with relics of a life built on love. Framed photos lined the walls. Daniel's gap-toothed smile, his prom night, our fishing trips by the lake. Every moment I'd fought for. Every moment I'd earned. I stopped at a photo of Daniel and Claire's wedding. Her smile was radiant, her arm looped through his. I'd thought she loved him. I thought she loved me. Was I wrong? I sank into a chair, my mind spiraling. I remembered the sacrifices, working double shifts at the diner, my feet aching, just to afford Daniel's soccer cleats, skipping vacations to save for his college, the nights I'd lain awake, worrying if I was enough. A single mother, a widow at 35, I'd poured my soul into raising him right, and he'd turned out good, kind, strong. So how could he let Claire do this? Did he know? The question gnawed at me, a splinter in my mind. I thought back to the last time I saw them together. Dinner at their house 3 months ago. Claire had been quiet, her eyes darting to her phone. Daniel had talked about the baby, his voice bright with excitement. Mom, you'll be the best grandma, he'd said, squeezing my hand. I'd believed him. But now doubt crept in like poison. Had Claire been planning this even then? Had she been pulling him away bit by bit? I grabbed my phone, scrolling through old texts. Daniel's messages were short lately. Busy with work, Mom. Claire's tired, maybe next week. I hadn't noticed the pattern before, but now it was clear. Claire was the gatekeeper. She controlled his time, his words, his world. And she'd decided I think Ikai did. I cry, baki cry, yang, belong cry, anikong. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was strategic. She wanted me gone. But why? What was she hiding? I called Daniel, my hands shaking. Voicemail. Daniel, it's Mom. Call me, please. I hung up my throat tight. What if he didn't call back? What if Claire had already turned him against me? The thought was a punch to the gut. I couldn't lose him. Not after everything. Not after I'd given my life to him. I needed answers. I needed to know why she'd hidden that invitation. I turned to the invitation again, its edges curling, like a secret waiting to unravel. I thought of Claire's smile, her perfect manners, the way she'd charmed everyone at the wedding. But there'd been moments, small ones, where her mask slipped. The time she'd snapped at Daniel for inviting me over unannounced. The way she'd brushed off my offer to help with the nursery. Little things, but they added up. They painted a picture of control, of calculation, of betrayal. Au comment. I remembered Susan's words from last night. She's hiding something, Margaret. I've seen her type before. Susan had never liked Claire. She'd called her too polished, like a mannequin, in a store window. I hadn't listened. I'd wanted to believe Claire was good for Daniel. But now I saw it. The way she'd isolated him. The way she'd isolated me. This wasn't just about a baby shower. This was about power, about erasing me from their lives. I stood again, my resolve hardening. I wasn't just a mother. I was a fighter. I'd survived losing my husband, raising a child alone, scraping by on nothing. I'd survived worse than Claire, and I had something she didn't know about, the trust fund. $1 million saved over decades, penny by penny, for my grandchild. It was my legacy, my weapon. Claire thought she could cut me out. She was wrong. I grabbed a notebook, my hands steady now. I started writing. Questions, clues. Why had Claire hidden the invitation? Who else was involved? Was Daniel complicit, or was he a victim too? I needed to know. I needed to dig. Susan would help. She knew people had connections. We'd find out what Claire was hiding again, and when I showed up at that baby shower uninvited, I'd bring more than just a gift. I'd bring truth. But what if the truth was worse than I imagined? What if Claire's betrayal ran deeper than a hidden invitation? What if she was hiding something that could break our family apart? The morning light spilled through my curtains, sharp and unforgiving. I hadn't slept. The invitation still sat on my table, a silent accusation. Betrayal. It clung to me heavy as grief, but something else burned brighter now. Determination. I had a secret, a weapon Claire couldn't touch, a $1 million trust fund for my grandchild, tucked away in a bank vault, hidden from the world. It was my legacy, my power, and I'd use it to reclaim my place. I sipped my coffee, the mug warm against my palms. My mind churned. Claire thought she could erase me, but she didn't know me. Not really. I'd spent years building that trust fund, every cent a testament to my love for Daniel and his future family. It started small savings from my diner shifts, a life insurance payout after my husband's death. I'd invested it wisely, watched it grow. $1 million, enough to secure a child's future, enough to make a statement. I opened my laptop, pulling up the trust fund documents. The numbers stared back at me, black and bold. I'd never told Daniel, not because I didn't trust him, but because I wanted it to be a surprise, a gift revealed at the perfect moment. But Claire's betrayal had changed the timeline. That moment was coming sooner than I'd planned. at the baby shower. Uninvited, I'd walk in, head high, and announce it. Let Claire try to erase me then. I leaned back, memories flickering. I thought of Daniel as a boy, his eyes wide, when I'd promised him the world. You'll always have me, I'd said, tucking him in. I'd meant it. Every sacrifice, every missed meal, every extra shift was for him. And now for his child. Claire thought she could sever that bond. She was wrong. Justice wasn't just a word. It was my mission. But doubts crept in cold and sly. What if Daniel knew about the invitation? What if he'd let Claire hide it? The thought twisted my stomach. I pushed it away, focusing on the plan. Susan had texted last night, promising to dig into Claire's past. She's not as perfect as she seems, Susan wrote. I believed her. Claire's smile was too polished, her words too careful. There was something beneath the surface, something dark. I called Susan, my voice low. Any news, I asked. She hesitated. Margaret, I found something. It's not good. My heart skipped. What is it? I pressed. Not over the phone, she said. Meet me at the cafe. Noon. I hung up, my pulse racing. What had Susan found? At the cafe, Susan sat in a corner booth, her face grim. Claire's been talking to someone, she said, sliding a photo across the table. A blurry image of Claire, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. Not Daniel. My breath caught. Who is he? I asked. Susan shook her head. I don't know yet. But they've been meeting. Often. Betrayal. It wasn't just about me anymore. Was Claire cheating? Was she plotting something worse? I stared at the photo, my hands trembling. Claire's smile in it wasn't the one she showed me. It was real, unguarded, intimate. My mind raced. Was this why she wanted me out? To hide a secret life? To protect her lies? I thought of Daniel, oblivious, planning a nursery, while his wife schemed. My heart ached for him, for us. But anger burned hotter. Claire would pay. I thanked Susan and drove home, the photo tucked in my purse. The trust fund felt heavier now, not just a gift, but a weapon. I'd walk into that baby shower and drop it like a bomb. $1 million, a future for my grandchild, a slap to Claire's face. She'd hidden my invitation, thinking she could control the narrative. But I'd rewrite it. I'd show everyone who she really was. Back home, I pulled out the trust fund papers, again spreading them across the table. I imagined the moment, the room silent, all eyes on me, Claire's face paling as I spoke. This is for my grandchild, I'd say, holding up the documents. $1 million from me. The crowd would gasp. Claire would falter. Justice would begin. But what if Claire fought back? What if her secret was bigger than an affair? What if she had allies, people who'd help her twist the truth? The photo burned in my mind. Who was that man? And what would I uncover before the baby shower arrived? The photo of Claire with that stranger haunted me. It sat on my table next to the invitation, a puzzle of betrayal. Who was he? Why was she hiding him? My fingers traced the edges of the image, her laughter frozen in time. Betrayal wasn't just a word anymore. It was Claire's shadow, following her every move. I needed to know more. I needed to go back to piece together the moments I'd missed I leaned back in my chair, the house quiet, except for the hum of the fridge. Memories of Claire flooded in, sharp and jagged. The first time I met her, she'd been charming, her smile, bright as a summer day. Daniel was smitten, his eyes glowing when he introduced her. "Mom, this is Claire." He said, his voice full of pride. I'd welcomed her, cooked her favorite meal, thought she'd be family. But now I saw the cracks. The way she'd dodge my questions about her past. The way she'd steer Daniel away from me. I grabbed a notebook, scribbling moments that nagged at me. The time Claire forgot to invite me to Daniel's birthday dinner. The way she dismissed my stories about his childhood, her eyes glazing over. Little slights piling up like stones. I'd ignored them, told myself I was paranoid. But the invitation in the trash proved it. This wasn't paranoia. This was a plan. Claire wanted me out. But why? What was she protecting? I thought back to last summer, a barbecue at their house. Claire had been distant, checking her phone constantly. I'd caught her whispering in the backyard, her voice low urgent. When I approached, she'd smiled, brushing it off. Work stuff, she'd said. I'd believed her. Foolish. Now I wondered. Was it him? The man in the photo? Was he part of her secret life? Betrayal cut deeper when I thought of Daniel, oblivious, flipping burgers while his wife schemed. I called Susan again. Dig deeper, I said. Find out who he is. Susan's voice was steady. Already on it, Margaret. My cousin knows a guy who can trace phone records. Give me a day. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Susan was a bulldog when it came to the truth. If Claire was hiding something, we'd find it. Justice demanded it. I stood pacing my mind, pulling up more memories. Claire's comments, subtle but sharp. Daniel needs space, Margaret. We're starting our own family now. Each one a jab, pushing me to the edges of their life. I'd let it slide, thinking she was just adjusting to married life. But now I saw the pattern. Control, isolation, betrayal. She'd been carving me out piece by piece long before the invitation. Unheard. I stopped at a photo on the mantle, Daniel and me fishing at the lake. He was 10, his grin wide as the sky. I'd taught him to cast a line, to be patient, to trust. Had Claire undone that? Had she turned my boy against me? The thought was a knife twisting. I couldn't believe it. Not fully. But doubt lingered, cold and heavy. I needed to talk to him, to hear his voice. I dialed Daniel again. Voicemail. Again. Daniel. It's Mom. We need to talk. It's important. My voice cracked, but I held it together. What if he was avoiding me? What if Claire had fed him lies? My chest tightened. I couldn't lose him. Not to her. Not to her secrets. I hung up staring at the phone, willing it to ring. It didn't. Dentro tricycle. Enough for girl. Susan called back that evening, her voice tense. Margaret, the man in the photo. His name's Ethan. Ethan Harper. He's connected to Claire. Old friend, maybe more. I'm still digging. My heart sank. An old friend or a lover. Was this why she hid the invitation, to keep me from seeing something? Someone I thanked Susan, my mind racing. Ethan Harper. A name. A clue. A step toward justice. I sat down, the trust fund papers still spread out. $1 million. My ace in the hole. I imagined Claire's face when I revealed it at the baby shower. Shock, fear, exposure. She thought she could erase me, but I'd show up uninvited with a gift that would shake her world. But now, with Ethan in the picture, the stakes felt higher. What was their connection? And what would I find before I walked into that room? The morning air was crisp, biting at my skin as I stood on my porch, clutching a fresh cup of coffee. The photo of Claire and Ethan Harper burned in my mind, a spark igniting my resolve. Betrayal wasn't just a wound, now it was fuel. Claire thought she could hide me from my grandchild's life, from my son's world. She was wrong. I'd show up at that baby shower uninvited with $1 million trust fund in my hands, and I'd make her regret ever crossing me. I went back inside the invitation, glaring from the table. 1 week until the shower, 1 week to plan. I wasn't just going to walk in. I was going to make an entrance, a statement. Justice demanded it. I grabbed my notebook, jotting down ideas. The trust fund announcement would be my centerpiece, but I needed more. I needed to expose Claire's lies, her secrets, her betrayal. Ethan Harper was the key. Who was he? Why was she meeting him? I called Susan, my voice steady. "What's the latest on Ethan?" I asked. She sighed. "He's a lawyer, Margaret. Works at a fancy firm downtown. Old college friend of Claire's. They've been texting a lot. Too much." My stomach twisted. A lawyer. Not just a friend then. Maybe a partner in whatever Claire was hiding. "Keep digging," I said. "I need everything before the shower." Susan promised results. I trusted her. I sat down sketching out the plan. The baby shower was at a country club, Claire's choice, fancy exclusive, just like her. I wasn't invited, but I'd go anyway. I pictured it the room full of her friends, Daniel smiling unaware of her schemes. I'd walk in, dressed sharp, head high. I'd wait for the perfect moment, then reveal the trust fund. $1 million. A gift for my grandchild. A blow to Claire's control. Her face would crumble. The crowd would whisper. Justice would spark. But I needed more than the trust fund. I needed proof of her betrayal. Susan's findings about Ethan were a start, but I had to connect the dots. Was he helping her hide something? Money and affair. Something worse, I thought of Daniel, my heart aching. Did he know? Was he caught in her web? I couldn't believe he'd betray me, but doubt lingered sharp as a blade. I drove to the country club that afternoon, scoping it out. The building was grand, all glass and stone with manicured lawns stretching wide. I parked across the street, watching guests come and go. I imagined Claire inside, planning her perfect event, thinking she'd won. She hadn't. I'd slip in through a side door, blend into the crowd. No one would stop me. Not when I had $1 million to announce. Not when I had truth on my side. Back home, I pulled out my best dress, deep blue, elegant, a gift from Daniel years ago. I tried it on, staring at my reflection. I wasn't just Margaret, the widow, the mother. I was a grandmother, fighting for her place, for justice. I practiced my speech, my voice steady. "This is from my grandchild," I'd say, holding up the trust fund papers. "From me." Because family matters. The words felt right, powerful, unstoppable. Susan texted late that night. "Found something big. Meet me tomorrow." My pulse quickened. Big. How big was it about Ethan Claire? Both. I barely slept, my mind racing with possibilities. What if Claire's secret was darker than I'd imagined? What if it wasn't just about me, but about Daniel, too? The thought chilled me. I needed to protect him, to protect my grandchild. The trust fund was my shield, but the truth would be my sword. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The baby shower was close. My plan was set, but the stakes were rising. Ethan Harper, a lawyer, a secret. Claire's betrayal was unraveling, and I was pulling the threads. I'd walk into that room uninvited and change everything. But what would I find when I got there? What would Claire do when her lies were exposed? The cafe was crowded, the hum of voices blending with the clink of coffee cups. I sat across from Susan, her eyes sharp, a manila folder in her hands. My heart pounded. Ethan Harper, Claire's secret, betrayal. The word pulsed in my veins, driving me forward. Susan slid the folder toward me, her voice low. Margaret, this is bigger than we thought. I opened it, my hands trembling. What was Claire hiding, and how deep did her betrayal run? Inside the folder were printouts, text messages, emails, even a grainy photo of Claire and Ethan at a hotel bar. Susan's cousin had pulled strings, accessed records. They've been meeting for months, Susan said. Before the pregnancy, my stomach churned. Months. Claire had been weaving this web long before the invitation. I scanned the texts, coded language, vague plans. Meet me at 8. Can't let Dee know. Dee, Daniel, my son, caught in her lies. I gripped the table, anger flaring. Is it an affair, I asked. Susan hesitated. Maybe, but there's more. Ethan's firm handles trust estates. Big money. Claire's been asking him about moving assets. Assets. My mind snapped to the trust fund. $1 million. My secret. Did Claire know? Was she after it? No. Impossible. Only I knew. But doubt crept in cold and sharp. What was she planning with Ethan? Susan leaned closer. There's a dinner next week. Ethan and Claire, I can get you close. My pulse quickened. A chance to see them together, to hear their words, to uncover the truth before the baby shower. I'm in, I said. Susan nodded, her face grim. We'll be careful. She's slippery, Margaret. Dangerous. Dangerous. The word hit hard. Claire wasn't just betraying me. She was a threat. To Daniel. To my grandchild. I drove home the folder, burning a hole in my purse. At my kitchen table, I spread out the evidence. Texts. Photos. Ethan's name tied to Claire's in ways that made my skin crawl. I thought of Daniel, his trusting smile, his excitement for the baby. Did he know? Could he be so blind? I dialed his number again. Voicemail. Daniel, please, call me. My voice broke. Betrayal wasn't just Claire's. It was the silence between me and my son. I turned to the trust fund papers, my anchor. $1 million, my gift, my power. I'd walk into that baby shower uninvited and announce it. Let Claire squirm. Let her friends see her for what she was. But now with Ethan in the picture, I needed more. Proof. Susan's plan to crash their dinner was risky, but I had to know. Was Claire cheating? Stealing worse. Justice demanded answers. That night, I barely slept, my mind replaying every moment with Claire. The way she'd smile, then turn away. The way she'd controlled Daniel's time, his choices. I remembered a fight they'd had months ago overheard, through their open window. You don't get it, Claire Daniel had shouted. She'd laughed, cold and sharp. You'll thank me later. For what? Keeping him from me. From his child's future. The memory fueled my fire. Susan called the next morning, her voice tense. Dinner's tomorrow. I got us a table nearby. Wear something discreet. I agreed, my heart racing. Tomorrow I'd see Claire and Ethan together. I'd hear their words, watch their faces. Every glance, every whisper would be a clue. I prepared myself, choosing a dark sweater, a scarf to blend in. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a hunter, stalking the truth. I looked at the invitation again, its elegant cursive mocking me. The baby shower was 5 days away. My plan was set, but Ethan's shadow loomed larger now. What were they planning? Money, power, betrayal. I'd find out. And when I walked into that country club, I'd bring more than a trust fund. I'd bring Claire's secrets exposed for all to see. And Keishan Moaga Fionkor. I mai ki krai. But what if I was too late? What if Claire's plan was already in motion? What if her betrayal wasn't just against me, but against Daniel too? The restaurant was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of wine and roasted garlic. I sat in a corner booth, Susan beside me, both of us dressed to blend in. My heart thundered. Across the room, Claire and Ethan Harper sat close their heads, bent together, voices low. Betrayal. It hung in the air, heavy as smoke. I gripped my water glass, my eyes locked on them. Tonight, I'd uncover her secrets. Tonight, justice would take shape. Susan nudged me, her whisper sharp. Listen carefully. We'd chosen a table just close enough to overhear, hidden by a potted plant. Claire's laugh floated over light but calculated. Ethan's voice was smooth, confident. It's almost done, he said. Just keep Daniel in the dark. My blood ran cold. Daniel, my son, caught in their web. What were they planning? An affair, a scheme, something worse. I leaned forward, straining to hear. Claire's voice was soft, conspiratorial. He trusts me. He won't suspect a thing. My stomach twisted. Suspect what I wanted to storm, over-demand answers. But Susan's hand on my arm kept me grounded. Patience, Margaret, she whispered. Patience. I hated it. Betrayal burned too hot for patience. But I stayed listening, waiting for the truth to crack open. Ethan slid a folder across the table. Claire opened it, her eyes scanning quickly. This is perfect, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Once it's signed, we're set. Signed, set, for what? My mind raced. Was it about money, property? My grandchild's future. The trust fund flashed in my thoughts, $1 million, my secret weapon. Did Claire know? Was she after it? I needed that folder. Susan scribbled notes on a napkin, her pen moving fast. They're talking about a trust, she whispered. Not yours, something else. A trust. My heart sank. Claire was moving money, hiding assets with Ethan's help. But whose money? Daniel's, his inheritance. I thought of my son, working long hours, believing in her, believing in their future. Betrayal wasn't just personal. Now it was financial. It was cruel. I watched Claire's face, her smile sharp as a blade. She leaned closer to Ethan, her hand brushing his, too familiar, too intimate. My chest tightened. Was it an affair or just business? The line blurred and both felt like betrayal. Ethan's voice dropped lower. After the baby's born, we move. Fast. Move. Move. What where my hands shook. I needed to know. I needed to protect Daniel. Susan signaled the waiter, pretending to order, but her eyes never left Claire. We need that folder, she mouthed. I nodded, my mind spinning. How steal it? Confront them? No, too risky. But the baby shower was 3 days away. I'd use what I'd heard, piece it together. Claire was planning something big, something secret, and I'd expose it with the trust fund as my trump card. Then it happened. Ethan's voice clear and cold. Daniel's too soft. He'll never know about the affair. Affair. The word hit like a gunshot. My vision blurred, rage and grief colliding. Claire was cheating with Ethan. My son's wife, the mother of my grandchild, was betraying him. I wanted to scream, to tear their world apart. Susan grabbed my hand, her grip tight. Not here, she hissed. Use it at the shower. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. Daniel, my boy, he didn't deserve this. I thought of his smile, his trust in her. Shattered. I'd protect him. I'd protect my grandchild. The trust fund wasn't just a gift. Now it was a shield, a way to secure their future free from Claire's lies. I'd walk into that baby shower uninvited and drop the truth like a bomb. $1 million, her affair, her betrayal, exposed. We left the restaurant, my heart heavy, but my resolve ironclad. Susan promised to dig deeper to find the folder's contents before the shower. I drove home, the night pressing in. Claire's laugh echoed in my mind, her words a poison. He won't suspect a thing. She was wrong. I suspected, I knew, and soon everyone would. But what else was in that folder? What was Claire's final move? The country club glowed under soft chandeliers, laughter and music spilling from the ballroom. I stood outside my blue dress, catching the evening breeze, the trust fund papers heavy in my purse. 3 days since the restaurant. 3 days since I'd heard the word affair. Betrayal wasn't just a wound. Now it was a battle cry. Claire thought she'd erased me from this moment. Tonight I'd prove her wrong. Tonight justice would burn bright. I slipped through a side door, my heart pounding. The hallway was quiet, lined with gold-framed mirrors. My reflection stared back, Margaret the mother, the grandmother, the fighter. I'd planned this moment, rehearsed every word. $1 million, Claire's affair, the truth. I'd unveil it all, uninvited, in front of her perfect world. Susan's final text this morning had sealed it, folders about a trust. Claire's funneling money, Ethan's helping, money, lies, betrayal. I was ready. And inside the ballroom, pastel balloons floated above tables draped in white linen. Claire stood at the center, radiant in a pink dress, her laugh practiced. Daniel was beside her, his smile warm but tired. My heart ached. Did he know? Could he sense her deception? Guests mingled, sipping champagne, oblivious to the storm I carried. I stayed in the shadows, waiting. Timing was everything. Justice demanded precision. Kaisai. A woman in a floral dress stepped to a microphone, clinking her glass. Let's celebrate. Claire and Daniel's baby cheers erupted. Claire beamed her hand on Daniel's arm. My stomach twisted. She played the perfect wife, the perfect mother. But I knew the truth. Ethan Harper, secret meetings, stolen money, an affair. I gripped my purse, the trust fund papers, a weight I'd soon unleash. The speeches began, friends, cousins, Claire's sister. Each one praised her, painting her as a saint. I wanted to scream. She wasn't a saint. She was a liar, a betrayer. I scanned the room, searching for Ethan. Was he here lurking? No sign of him. Good. This was Claire's stage, and I'd steal it. I took a deep breath. my moment approaching. The floral dress woman called for final toasts. I stepped forward, my heels clicking on the marble floor, heads turned, whispers rippled. Claire's eyes met mine, widening in shock. "Margaret," she gasped, her voice tight. Daniel frowned, confused. "Mom," I smiled, calm but fierce. "I wasn't invited," I said loud enough for all to hear. "But I'm here for my grandchild." The room fell silent, every eye on me. I pulled the trust fund papers from my purse, holding them high. "This is my gift," I said, my voice steady. $1 million, a trust fund for my grandchild's future. Gasps echoed. Claire's face paled, her smile frozen. Daniel's jaw dropped. I pressed on. "I've saved for years. For family, because family matters." I turned to Claire, my gaze piercing. "But some people don't value family. Some people hide invitations, hide truths." The crowd murmured, sensing the shift. Claire's hands trembled. I didn't stop. "Claire, I know about Ethan Harper. Your meetings, your affair." The room exploded in whispers. Daniel stiffened, his eyes darting to Claire. What he whispered. Claire laughed shrill and desperate. "She's lying, she's jealous." But her voice cracked, her facade crumbling. I held up Susan's photo, the one from the restaurant. "This isn't jealousy," I said. "This is proof. You've been meeting Ethan, moving money, betraying Daniel." The crowd leaned in, shocked. Daniel's face darkened, pain flashing in his eyes. "Onchakrak chube antunas infordse ander." I stepped closer, my voice low but clear. "You thought you could erase me, Claire. You thought you could steal my family. But this trust fund, this truth, it's my justice." Tears welled in my eyes, but I stood tall. The room was mine. Claire was exposed. Betrayal had met its match. But what would she do now? What would Daniel say? The ballroom was a frozen tableau, every eye pinned on Claire. Her face, once radiant, was a mask of panic, her lips trembling as whispers swirled. My words hung in the air. $1 million, Ethan Harper, affair, betrayal. The truth had landed like a thunderclap, and I stood tall, the trust fund papers still in my hand. Justice felt close, but Claire's eyes burned with something dangerous. She wasn't done. Not yet. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low, raw. "Claire, is it true?" His question cut through the murmurs, sharp as a blade. Claire's gaze darted, searching for an escape. "Daniel, she's lying," she said, her voice high, frantic. "Your mother's trying to ruin us." But her words faltered, her hands twisting the hem of her dress. Daniel's face hardened, doubt creeping in. My heart ached for him, but this was necessary. Truth was the only way forward. I held up the photo again, my voice steady. "This is Claire with Ethan Harper. Not a lie, not jealousy. Fact." The crowd leaned closer, some pulling out phones, snapping pictures. Claire's sister Lisa pushed through, her face red. "How dare you, Margaret? This is Claire's day." I met her glare. "It's my grandchild's day, and I'm here to protect them." Lisa froze, her argument crumbling. Claire lunged for the photo, her movements desperate. "Give me that," she hissed, but I stepped back, tucking it into my purse. "You can't hide this, Claire," I said. "Not anymore." Her eyes narrowed, a predator cornered. Then she turned to the crowd, her voice rising. "She's delusional. She's trying to sabotage me because she can't let Daniel go." A few guests nodded, swayed by her act. Doubt flickered in my chest. Could she twist this? Daniel grabbed her arm, his voice breaking. Stop, Claire. Just tell me the truth. His pain was a knife to my heart. Claire's eyes welled with tears, crocodile tears I knew. I love you, Daniel, she sobbed. I'd never betray you. But her voice cracked, and Daniel's shoulders slumped. He wasn't convinced, neither was I. Betrayal wasn't just in her words. It was in her every glance, every secret meeting with Ethan. Lisa stepped between them, her voice loud. This is a private matter. Everyone, please, let's continue the shower. She shot me a venomous look, ushering guests toward the gift table. Some followed, but others lingered, whispering, watching. Claire seized the moment, pulling Daniel aside, her hands on his face, murmuring fast. I couldn't hear her words, but I saw his confusion, his pain. She was trying to salvage her lies. Susan appeared at my side, her voice low. She's slipping Margaret, but she's not out. Lisa's helping her. I knotted my jaw tight. Lisa, Claire's ally. I should have expected this. I scanned the room, spotting Lisa, directing staff, her phone pressed to her ear. Was she calling Ethan? Planning something. My pulse quickened. The trust fund was my victory, but Claire's desperation made her unpredictable. I approached Daniel, my voice soft. Son, I'm sorry. I had to tell you. He looked at me, his eyes wet. Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner? The question stung. I just found out, I said. I wanted to protect you. He nodded, but his gaze drifted to Claire, still whispering to Lisa. Betrayal had fractured him, and I hated her for it. Entree Trucinci. Then chaos. Lisa stormed toward me, a glass of champagne in her hand. You're a liar, she shouted, splashing the liquid at me. Gasps erupted. The cold liquid soaked my dress, but I didn't flinch. Lisa, I said, calm, the truth doesn't need theatrics. The crowd murmured, subsiding, with me others, with Claire. Susan stepped in, her voice, sharp. Back off, Lisa. You can't hide what Claire's done. Aichi, go. Claire seized the distraction, grabbing a microphone. Everyone, please. This is a misunderstanding. Margaret's confused grieving. Let's focus on the baby. Her voice was smooth, now controlled. Some guests clapped, desperate for normalcy. My stomach twisted. She was slipping away, rewriting the narrative. I needed to act. But what was her next move? What was she whispering to Lisa? The ballroom pulsed with tension. Claire's voice echoing through the microphone, smooth and calculated. She stood there, pink dress, pristine, pleading for sympathy, painting me as the villain. Margaret's confused. She said, her eyes glistening with practiced tears. Let's celebrate the baby. The crowd wavered, some nodding, others glancing at me, unsure. Betrayal. It clung to her every word, but she was slipping through my fingers. I gripped the trust fund papers, my heart racing. This wasn't over. Justice wasn't done. I stepped forward, my soaked dress clinging to me, champagne dripping from my hem. Lisa's stunt had backfired. Eyes were on me now, not Claire. I raised my voice, steady, commanding. Claire, you can't rewrite the truth. The room hushed. I held up the trust fund papers, my weapon, my legacy. $1 million. For my grandchild, from me, because family fights for family. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Claire's smile faltered. Daniel stood frozen, his eyes darting between us. Mom, he said, his voice raw, is this real? I nodded, stepping closer, my gaze locked on him. Every cent, Daniel. For your child's future, I've saved for years. Claire didn't want me here, but I came. For you, for them. His face softened pain and gratitude mixing. He turned to Claire, his voice sharp. You hid her invitation. Why? Claire stammered, her facade cracking. I didn't mean to. It was a mistake, but the crowd wasn't buying it. Whispers grew louder, a fair Ethan money. Susan stepped up, holding another photo, this one clearer. Claire and Ethan, arms linked outside his firm. No mistake, Susan said loud enough for all. Claire's been meeting Ethan Harper, moving money behind Daniel's back. The room erupted, phones flashing, recording. Lisa lunged for Susan, shouting, "That's fake." But Susan sidestepped, calm. "It's real, Lisa. We have texts, emails, bank records. I'd gotten them that morning. Susan's cousin had cracked Ethan's email. Claire was funneling Daniel's inheritance, small amounts at a time, into an account tied to Ethan. Not my trust fund, but Daniel's future. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was theft. The crowd turned their sympathy, shifting to me, to Daniel. Segber eyes. Claire dropped the microphone, her face ashen. "Daniel, please," she begged, reaching for him. He stepped back, his voice cold. "You lied to me. About Ethan. About my mom." Tears streamed down his face, but his resolve was iron. "We're done." The words hit like a gavel. Claire sank to her knees, sobbing, but no one rushed to her side. Her allies, Lisa, a few friends, stood frozen, exposed. I approached Daniel, my hand on his shoulder. "I'm here, son," I whispered. He hugged me tight, like he was 10 again, scared of the dark. "I didn't know, Mom," he said. "I'm sorry." I held him, tears in my eyes. "You're enough," I said. "You always were." The crowd watched, some crying, others nodding. Justice wasn't just mine, it was ours. I turned to the room, my voice clear. "This trust fund is for my grandchild. No one can take that away. Not Claire, not her lies." I handed the papers to Daniel, who clutched them, his hands shaking. "It's yours to protect," I said. He nodded, strength returning to his eyes. The crowd applauded, soft at first, then thunderous. Claire's betrayal was undone. My place was restored. Later, as guests left, Daniel and I sat together, the ballroom emptying. Claire had fled Lisa, trailing her, their whispers frantic. Susan joined us, her smile fierce. "She's finished," she said. "Ethan's firm is under investigation now." I exhaled, relief washing over me. The trust fund was safe. Daniel was free. My grandchild's future was secure. I looked at Daniel, his hand in mine. "We'll rebuild," I said. He nodded, his voice soft. "With you, Mom." Empowerment surged through me. Betrayal had tried to break us, but we'd won. Justice had prevailed. And as we left the country club, the stars above seemed brighter, promising a new chapter. For me, for Daniel, for our family.